Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for January 23rd, 2024. Well, yesterday we had those bulls really pushing yesterday once again, trying to drive on through and continue into the new week after Friday's big surge to the upside. So what does that mean for today? Well, let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, we had Asian markets. They were lower, substantially lower overnight, and then China come out with an idea. It hasn't been made official, I guess, but some kind of a stock market rescue of somewhere around $250 billion. And although it's still just an idea out there, it reversed all of the markets yesterday, except the Nikkei. The Nikkei was just slightly lower, but Hong Kong surged on that news, up 2.63%, as they're waiting to see if China's going to go ahead and step through that. Unfortunately, it didn't really help China all that lot. It's already meeting with a whole bunch of skepticism, and China only improved by 0.53%. If we take a look at the European markets are, well, lower across the board this morning. Not majorly lower, just feeling a little bit of bearishness here this morning. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. They're feeling, well, maybe after such big moves the last couple of days, it's time to rest a little bit. And we've got U.S. markets feeling kind of the same way, just a little bit of rest here this morning, maybe coming into the futures. We'll see how that works out. You know, the Dow breaking through 38,000 for the first time was a new number, and you probably saw all of the folks down there on the floor wearing their new $38,000 or 38,000 level hats. So they got that done. Now let's see if they can continue to push on through. If we take a look at oil markets here this morning, oil's just a little bit lower here this morning. We've got the dollar gaining a little bit of value here today because we've got bond yields going up, worrying just a little bit about the pending inflation data perhaps. So keep an eye on those. So what does all that mean? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we may want to approach the market for the day. Let's remember we need to shake off a little bit of bias here when we take a look at this, and let's see if we can kind of figure out, what happens in any circumstance here in the market. Well, first off, if the bulls can continue to find inspiration here in the market. This was a great breakout here on the diamonds, and if they can hold this area up here of support, then there's every reason to believe if they can hold that, then we may have that opportunity to move on higher, perhaps with a little bit of rest. Remember, we moved in 3 great big moves here with leaving gaps behind, and that does leave a little bit of danger in the market when we stretch out like that. But overall, bulls are very, very happy continuing to push to the upside. No reason at this point in the price action to suggest anything other than that. But if those bears were to find something in inspiration today, then that opportunity that we could test this area as support, and if that were to fail, then pushing down in here, we would be looking for some price support areas in here to maybe catch us if we push down. The only major problem here is the big risk of the point moves in here. Yesterday I was doing a class for the Right Way Options folks, and we measured from here to here, and it's almost 1,000 points. in just those three little candles right there. So kind of keeping in mind that these are some big point moves that are possible. So if it does pull back, that could be a little bit painful for those that might have chased in right at the last minute there. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY, also beautiful breakout here in the chart, and I will turn this line green if we prove to hold that area of price support. Remember, this was the first breakout to all-time high here in the SPY. So let's watch that closely. Very big move here in the market, and we're looking just a little bit flat here. Maybe a little tiny bit of bearishness that could turn to bullishness before the market open, the way we've seen kind of every single day we pump up in the pre-market. We'll want to watch that carefully. Unfortunately, what we've got here is a pretty substantial pullback would occur if we just come back and test this area of support. So you'll want to be watching that pretty closely. Is this going to end up being a shooting star? Shooting star would have to have this candle follow through to the downside today. Otherwise, that really doesn't mean much up there, but we'll want to watch that closely. If that were to be the case and it kind of turns into a shooting star, then I would suggest maybe a little bit more rest or even some consolidation here in the SPY. But remember, if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, we've got blue sky above. Right now, there's nothing in this chart that suggests anything different in that price action. If we do start to pull back, just realize coming back into here would be a pretty substantial pullback in price. Might be a little bit painful for the market, so be a little bit careful there. Then if we take a look at our QQQ, well, QQQ, blue sky highs, everything's looking good here, breaking through these resistance levels in the chart, continuing to power on higher. One thing you do want to consider is, once again, 1, 2, 3, 4 days up, and then we left a little bit of bearishness up in that chart yesterday. So if the bulls can continue to push through here in the market, then no, there's blue sky up above. There's no resistance up there to speak of. And if the bears were to find some inspiration here for some reason, just kind of keep in mind, again, there really is no support until we come back down here, which would be a pretty big point pullback to come back and test that support. Now, it doesn't have to do that in a day. It could do that over multiple days, just coming back into this trend. And that would ease some of that pressure here that we see in the market for that next upside move. If we take a look at IWM, IWM is actually stretching out here this morning. One of the only futures trying to show some bullishness here this morning. They had a good move here yesterday, pushing back up into this downtrend break, and I had turned that red because we had gone into that situation where we broke down, held it as resistance, and then fell. Well, the good news here for those folks watching here in IWM is we have now, I'm going to roll this line over here, we have now broken this downtrend here in this chart. So we're reversing here in the Russell and trying to catch up with the other indexes. If the Russell can stay up here and hold, find a support level in here, then we may have that opportunity that IWM could start joining in here with the rest of the market. But we do want to watch this carefully. IWM has been struggling an awful lot, and it doesn't benefit from, those big tech giants at all. So we'll want to be keeping a close eye on those. And, those tech giants have just been dominating all three of the major indexes, the Diamond SPY and QQQ, because of the massive weighting that they have in those indexes. And that's been kind of a handicap here for the Russell. We'll see if they can continue to push on through without them. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX yesterday popped up here with a little bit of fear starting out in the morning, but then drifted all the way back down, and by the close we took out yesterday's low. We're sliding down below this trend. So again, here we have no fear in this market. We're not concerned about much of anything. It's just a market that's inhaling as much capital as it can right now. I'm heading in toward, some of these inflation data numbers and possibly even a little bit of concern out there that we've kind of gotten carried away here heading into some of the big earnings reports, but we'll see. So watch that carefully. If we can continue to push this on down here, testing these levels of support, if those bulls can follow through. If for some reason those bears were to engage here and push this back up, that's where those really concerns really start to come up. If we continue to make these little higher lows here in the chart, that's where those concerns start to come up, and we can see maybe just a little fear that could creep up in there if that were to occur. If we take a look at our T2122, our T2122 really pushed up higher yesterday, really strong, and you can see kind of hooking over here just a little bit, and I'll show you why that occurred, but still showing lots of strength here, pushing back to the upside. We'll want to watch that carefully. If this pushes on through up here, we've got some room if the bulls can push through to the upside before we're into that bearish reversal zone. But if those bears were to find reason for inspiration, just keep in mind we've got plenty of downside here that we've just created with that surge. So we'll want to be watching that carefully with the consideration that the market could be a little light and choppy as we get closer and closer and closer to that CPI report, that uncertainty about what that number might be. And then, of course, after we get through that, the next day, Friday morning, we're going to get the core PCE number, which is, of course, the Fed's favorite number on inflation. So be watching that carefully. If we take a look at our T2108, which is the percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, had a nice little increase here yesterday, popping back up, pushing. As you can see, we may be running into an area here in the chart where we could run into just a little bit of price resistance up in here. But if the bulls can follow on through, break through that resistance, there's every reason to believe they could, pushing on through, we might start creeping back up here into this area of price resistance at T2108. A failure here could be a little bit of a problem. If we were to fail and then drop back down below that 50% area here, that might be a little bit of concern and raise a little bit of fear in the market. But just note that there are price support levels down here. If we take a look at our T2107, now T2107, as you can see, also elevated yesterday, pushing back up. So the bulls were nicely in control yesterday, pushing through. So as you can see, bouncing off of that 50% area here where there is some price support. No harm here in the chart. We'll see if we can push on through into some of these resistance areas, keeping in mind that as we push up into here, we're starting to reach kind of that frothy area of the market once again. So watch that carefully. If the bears were to come back in and push down, well, you can see we've created a pretty nice support area here. So no worries unless we were to maybe break down below through there. Taking a look at our T2101, here's why we had just kind of that hesitation yesterday. We had that big bullish move in the markets, and then we kind of faded into the rest of the day, and that's because market breadth is pulling back. And that market breadth is a little bit of a problem for us right now because we have so many stocks in their blackout period. They're unable to do stock buybacks and do any of those kind of things. And that's been a big part of this market. So as that breadth continues to show us that weakness on these bull runs, remember that could really inspire the bears to be a little bit more aggressive. If we can see every time we get that bull move, that breadth is weak and pulling back in the market. So watch that carefully. If this continues to move on down today on a bullish wave, that would be maybe a little bit concerning. If, for example, we were to have bears come in here and start pushing today, and this starts coming back up, that would also be a little bit of concern. So watch that carefully. I don't see a whole lot of energy in the bearish side yet. We're going to need some kind of inspiration to get them going, but let's kind of keep an eye on that breadth being a little bit lacking, and we're really stretched in these PE ratios here in the market. As a matter of fact, we're about 1.5% above a standard deviation on the historical PE average for the S&P 500. So we are really stretched in those PE ratios coming into some of these giant earnings reports that are around the corner. Let's take a look at some stocks that, let's take a look at our economic calendar here first. Our economic calendar, we've got not much on here to worry about today. We've got Richmond Fed manufacturing. Now that's expected to come in negative. Like all of our manufacturing is in terrible decline. Market doesn't seem to care, but we'll want to keep an eye on that one maybe this morning. It's not near as important as most of them. And then, of course, we've got some bond announcements and bond auctions. Money supply number here later in the day that I don't think anybody's going to care about. So today, not much going on here. Remember, tomorrow we've got mortgage applications, PMI flash, and we've got that petroleum status, which could be interesting tomorrow, along with some bond auctions to be thinking about. What's going to be important for us today is probably the earnings calendar, and there are quite a few earnings today that are notable. So I won't be able to cover them all this morning. Make sure you click the link just below the title of the video to go back to the morning blog. That will get you that full list of notables here for today. Probably the most notable is going to be kind of a pseudo tech here. NVIDIA will be, not NVIDIA, what am I thinking about? Netflix will be reporting today. Keep an eye on that one. That could be really important heading into the close of the day. Obviously, this is one of those that could really inspire some bullish action if it reports really well. The opposite could be true if it happens to disappoint. Notice we've been up here testing these resistance levels in the chart, seeing if we can push on through here in Netflix. So keep a close eye on that for later on this afternoon. Other reports that could be really interesting for today, we've got 3M reporting. Looks like 3M is disappointing here this morning. We're going to hear from DHI. Looks like DHI Horton is feeling a little bit of pressure here this morning as well. We're going to hear from General Electric, GE also feeling a little bit of pressure here this morning on some of those numbers. We've got LMT that will be reporting today and RTX. Those will be interesting just simply because of the geopolitical situations, and particularly the escalating situation over there in the Red Sea with Iran. So watch that carefully. Looks like RTX getting a nice little pop here this morning to the upside after its earnings report. And then we've got stocks like Procter & Gamble trying to push up here this morning. Keep an eye on that. We're going to hear from some old boring companies like Verizon here today. Watch that. We've got Texas Instruments that will be reporting. So keep an eye. There's quite a few reports. And once again, click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog where you can catch that full list of notables. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But please keep in mind, if you guys could do me that favor before we do this, make sure you click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up, and that way you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, then also click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. It really is the engagement with the channel that does the most in helping. So thank you so much to everyone who does take the time to do that. Supporting the effort anyway for putting these videos out every day is very much appreciated. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You're going to have to do your own due diligence, be very, very careful in this market. Just realizing that we're pretty elevated here heading into these reports, and we could see a lot of volatility around these earnings reports. So first off, follow your trade rules, your trade guidelines. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. First off, let's take a look at this DOCU. DOCU, interesting little pattern here. Notice we've got kind of a funky little pattern actually. Could be interpreted as a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern in here. I kind of interpret this more as a interesting little cup and handle pattern. So keeping that in mind, watch that area right up here. If DOCU can hold this price support in the chart, there may be that opportunity here, if we can find that inspiration, that we might come off of this as a little bit of a trend and continue to push on through to the upside. We've got plenty of time on this. Notice this doesn't report until 3:14. So as we're struggling to break through this big resistance in the chart, watch that one carefully on DOCU. Kind of an interesting price pattern. Take a look at CCJ now. CCJ struggling here just a little bit. I put a price alert on here just to notify me if we hold this price support and bounce back up. Continued to fade yesterday into that downside move, but you know, CCJ has been remarkably strong this year, and well, just keep an eye on it. If we can find some buyers in here and push this right back up, I think I might be interested in that trade. You might want to take a look at UEC. I think UEC actually has the more dominant, stronger position right now. Notice how beautiful this upside trend has been. Doggone it. My tool just changed on me, so give me just one moment to fix that. As you can see, holding this nice upside trend and then breaking through up here in this chart, breaking through these resistance levels. So if we can find a little bit of price support right in these areas here, look for that next opportunity for UEC maybe to move on higher. Worth keeping an eye on. I mentioned yesterday Mondelez. I adjusted my alert down a little bit, came really close to tagging it yesterday, and I think there's an opportunity here that it may be tagging this morning. So watch that carefully. Mondelez might be ready to resume its uptrend, moving off of here to push on higher. And you can see we do have some resistance levels up here to be concerned about, but let's keep an eye on that. Old defensive sector company looking pretty good. Walmart, I continue to bring up Walmart, and this continues to perform pretty well overall. We popped through my alert here and then just backed up a little tiny bit to come on out here to trend. So we're resting out in here. Watch for that next opportunity for Walmart to maybe move on through to the upside. Certainly has some bullishness in that chart to be paying attention to. You know, stocks like Hershey was looking so good there for a while and then failing, dropping back down below the support. What I was looking at here is that hold around that 50-day moving average. Now, as this continues to drag this 50-day moving average, notice our shorter term moving averages are coming up, trying to provide a little bit of support in here. I would not be at all surprised at some point in time Hershey decides to take off here. So watch Hershey, put it on a list, keep an eye on that if that can get moving in the market here. Got some pretty good upside potential in there. I would watch that one closely. Now, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention some stocks that well, could be showing us a little bit of problem. Take a look here at Las Vegas Sands. stands. Las Vegas breaking back down here through this support level, rallying back there to a resistance and showing failure. This is looking short here to me, and that opportunity that we could break on down through this little price support and maybe even be moving back down to retest some of these lows. And when I look at others in the sector, take a look at Penn National. Penn National doing the same thing. We rallied back up into this price resistance, showing that downtrend, that possibility that this could move on lower. We got something going on here in the pre-market trying to pump this one up, so watch that closely, but keep an eye on some of these stocks that are showing that little bit of bearishness here overall in the market. Let's take a look. Honeywell. Honeywell is another one of those that's starting to give me a little concern here. We tried to push back up. Obviously, we broke this support in the chart, pushed down, made a lower high. Then we tried to reverse on this big surge in the market the last few days. We pushed up here but ended up leaving a shooting star pattern in here yesterday. So we broke back through that resistance, but we couldn't hold it. Now we're showing that little bit of potential follow through here in the pre-market on Honeywell. Watch this for that potential short to move on lower here in that chart. Certainly a possibility. I do have continued concern here with Tesla. Tesla continuing to fall away here after failing. We might be coming into a little bit of support here. So I would watch this closely for that potential bounce back up, but I think any bounce back up runs us into that situation of more potential downside here following in this downtrend on that chart. So watch Tesla closely. So there's a few stocks for you to be paying attention to. I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Hope you have great success in your day. Hope the profits come in nicely for you. Be careful, be safe, and I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Wishing you all the very, very best.